Hello and welcome to Happy Foot, Sad Foot, your LAFC gateway drug and the only LAFC podcast that's really torn up about that Ricky Puig injury. I'm Travis Helwig.
I'm Vince LaRosa.
And I'm Darren Miller. Welcome to our 2024 LAFC season wrap-up. We had a week to lick our wounds. Now we're ready to lick our wounds in podcast form. This is our first of a handful of off-season episodes we'll have for you before LAFC starts playing again in like 3 weeks or something. But until then, it's MLS on ice.
Well, we did it. We lost again.
This is what it's so crazy to me that like every team who doesn't go to the Cup, this is what you do after. Well, we didn't win.
The expectations are high, right? We were talking, I mean, you can blame us for losing. We were talking about like how we were going to frame the fucking finals pod outside the stadium before the Seattle game.
I mean, only because we're very good at what we do and we make sure that we're well prepared. We didn't jinx anything.
Yeah, we didn't jinx it. We did say that it was when we shouldn't cart, whatever. It just... how was everyone's Thanksgiving? We'll start there. And then before we get into what we're talking, we're going to do a season recap here. You guys sent us memories and some angry complaints, something we're calling Tell 'em Why You Mad. And we're going to have an extended version of this podcast for Patreon subscribers where we get to more of them. But even if you haven't subscribed to the Patreon, we're going to give you the full season, recap, reaction. Lick our wounds is the phrase you use, Darren?
Yeah, that's always such a weird, like,
it's gross.
I get it. Like, it's an animal thing.
Yeah, I didn't like saying it out loud.
Why would you lick your... It just seems so unhygienic.
Yeah, it is.
Don't do that.
I do it.
Should we re-record a new thing?
No, you said it.
Yeah, no. I can't take it back.
Well, I was going to say, if you really want to hear the hate tweets and emails and everything, you do still have time to, you could turn this off. Subscribe to the Patreon. You're not missing much because it's just our dumb banter, and then just start that episode. I mean, even just fast forward if you want.
I like imagining that there's no way to pause. It's okay what you miss in between. In the 5 minutes that it takes to do all that, just pick it back up wherever it's still going.
As far as I know, it's
on
live.
TV, I guess.
Yeah, I've never heard of TiVo.
Yeah, if you want to, we're all really mad in the end. So I think this is ultimately going to be, if you're not subscribed to the Patreon, it's going to be like a nice little sanitized, sugar-coated wrap-up.
We're going to leave some of the juicy stuff for behind the paywall because that's what people pay for.
I'm saving my Steve outtakes for behind the paywall. Just going to say it right up top.
Not that we won't be honest.
You know what I want to talk about right up top before we get into our season recap? The Galaxy are an MLS Cup final, and we have yet to experience this as a fan base, right? We haven't felt what this is like.
The MLS Cup finals is in LA County. It's in our county.
This is the first time they've been farther than us in a season, right?
Yeah.
That we've existed.
Yeah. Yep. And it feels bad that we didn't at least get to, I mean, okay, this is a good hypothetical. Would you have rather lost to Seattle or lost to the Galaxy in the next round? If in this reality, the Galaxy definitely make it, are you happy that we lost to Seattle, or do you wish that we made it one more round and lost to the Galaxy?
I prefer losing to Seattle.
Right. It's like from a
100%.
Yeah, from a competition standpoint, obviously you always want to go as far as you possibly can. It's only worth it losing to the Galaxy if they then go on to lose MLS Cup.
We lose no matter what.
Because then when they try to gloat, you're like, guy, you still lost.
You didn't do it. Yeah.
It's.
But I don't know. I don't want to lose to them at home.
No.
I don't want to see that. That's another thing that we would have had to experience. No,
yeah.
I don't want.
Are you guys going to watch MLS Cup?
I watched Galaxy Seattle. I have a feeling.
Yeah, so did
I have a feeling I'm the only. Oh, Darren did. Wow.
No, I did too.
What?
I watched in New York.
Yeah.
Wow. Basking on the glow of,
yeah, I don't think I can not watch.
Sweet homecoming you had at your high school. You were like, I just got to watch some MLS now.
I have to tell you that it was easily the most terrifying thing I've ever done. Was talking to those kids. Yeah, it was. So what Vince is talking about is,
did they call you a boomer?
I got to tell you, something's wrong. The kid, something's going on. I think it's got to be COVID and screens. But these kids, if you're listening, I loved you. You're all very nice. A lot of them followed me. So maybe,
yeah. How many do you think subscribe to the Patreon? Oh, I mean, although this is free, but I'm just saying.
yeah, this is free. It just was like something with the teacher. So for those of you who don't know, I was invited back to speak in my school. I thought it was I agreed to it thinking I was going to talk to a class. The teacher goes, I booked the auditorium, and it was 200 high school sophomores.
Oh my God.
And I had to like make a slide deck and talk to these kids about writing. And like, I had 90 minutes,
Oh my
90
God.
minutes.
Oh my
And,
God.
like, it was a nightmare. It was easily like, I kept being like, this is a bad idea. But I realized that it was the last full day of school before Thanksgiving, and the teachers wanted a way to not have to do work. And
Right.
I was that. But what else?
Well, don't you just switch to Q&A at a certain point?
I did. And once it
Okay.
got Q&A, things got better. But like when I was doing the first 40 minutes of my presentation on writing, which
Oh my God.
I have to tell you wasn't good. They were silent the whole time. I'm trying to make jokes, and it's not. You have a sense of like what I thought it was going terribly the entire time.
Sure.
And then we got to, because it was so silent, there was no response. And then at the very end, we get to the Q&A, and there's like dozens of questions, and kids are like juicing. Kids are
Yeah.
really excited to ask
Okay,
questions.
that's the problem. It's the steroids.
Yeah, those kids are doing steroids to listen to a writing
During
presentation.
the audit,
They really
during
don't know what's going on.
event?
All these kids were injecting themselves with anabolic steroids,
Yeah.
and they weren't paying attention to my writing tips. But these kids, like, it felt as if they didn't know how to exist in a crowd of people, because once we got to the one-on-ones and the conversation and afterwards, like dozens of kids wanted photos with me. But like, if you asked me after that 40 minutes, I would have told you it was a disaster. There just was they didn't know how to be in a crowd. And the teacher told me it was the only assembly they've had all year. They don't have assemblies.
Oh,
What?
I don't know what's happening. Like the whole thing, I was like, something is off.
right.
We've lost a generation.
Oh, man.
Anyways, we'll be fine, I'm sure.
Great.
Yeah. Well, not like we have to coexist and, sometimes be with each other.
Yeah, and their votes will count the same as ours one day.
Cool.
They're not voting.
Unless it's a TikTok poll, am I right? Huh?
Yeah.
Oh, these kids. I did one other thing I'll say from that before we start talking about LAFC was I obviously tried to make it fun, and to troll them later in the thing when I talked about moving to LA, I had a full clip of the Freddie Freeman Grand Slam of him beating the Yankees, because they're all Yankees fans there. And they hated it, as you might guess. Like it was not something they enjoyed. But then I never made a slide deck before, and I couldn't get it off the screen. And so it just kept playing on loop. And I was like, guys, I promise I didn't mean this to happen.
That's really funny.
Anyways, I'll never do it again.
That's probably fair.
Oh, you guys have good Thanksgivings?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
All right, good. I got to talk.
Yeah.
What'd you say? You made pot pie?
I made a pot pie. I never made a pot pie before. And I was actually really terrified, the classic, the dreaded soggy bottom. I was worried about it, but it did not happen. It was very good. Cody and I had an excellent Thanksgiving, and so did the cats and dog. And I actually had some time off where I didn't work and didn't think about soccer, which was kind of amazing.
That was the other thing too. I noticed we've only had a week off, and it feels like we haven't done a podcast in 2 months. Doesn't it feel like a really long time?
In a good way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I just, took a bunch of horse tranquilizers as soon as LAFC lost, and then woke up like yesterday. So.
Oh, okay. So this healthcare guy was shot. What else do we got to fill you in? the Ricky Puig injury and the healthcare guy getting shot.
Or do we have to do that?
I'm sorry. I just want to say that the way I feel about the Ricky Puig injury and the way I feel about the healthcare assassination are the same. Which is, man, I'm really sorry that happened.
Oh no!
Oh, that's a real shame.
Actually, Travis,
We'll let you decide what that really means.
Travis, we might have more news about your week than you do.
Secret Service is here.
We do have more info about how you feel about that. If you wanna know more about how you feel about that, you did send us a clip.
Oh, the Ricky Puig. We'll put that behind the Patreon. I was
for sure.
okay.
That you might have to buy from us.
That's actually a really good. That's a great. Oh my god! I was drunk.
Have you listened to what you sent us?
No.
Wait, do you remember
Travis,
doing?
okay.
Do you remember doing it?
I remember doing it. I was very drunk.
Oh yeah.
In a way, and like, it was the news of the Ricky Puig injury came out.
Yeah, and the three of us were texting.
And you could tell you were also sleepy. Like you were barely.
It was like 2 a.m.
Yeah, it was very late in New York.
Yeah, like
I was in New York, and he sent us a voice message that was really great. And I hope that you subscribe to the Patreon.
That's going to the Patreon. And I just want to say, for the record, if you be cool, everyone.
Yeah, real circle of trust moment. This is going to be.
All right. Well, give us your $5 if you want to destroy my life.
Can we DCMA if people put out a voicemail?
Yeah, we can do the content ID thing. Yeah, we'll make sure there's no
let's
matches.
do that, but just in case.
Can we watermark all of them so we can hear the username of whoever?
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about soccer. So here's how it's going to work. Well, the beginning of the show, we're going to go through some of the stuff that we've done in our season recaps in the past. We're going to go through our drafts, all of our predictions. We're gonna talk about some, I don't know, you know what a recap is. And then the second part, we're gonna go through your submissions, and then we're gonna extend longer to give you the juicy submissions along with me, the drunk message that I sent to all of you. All right, Darren, take us away.
All right, let's do the fantasy draft. It's time to crown a winner. If you're just joining us, weird time to just start joining us, but welcome. At the beginning of this season, like every one other season we've done this, we each drafted 4 LAFC players to our own squad, and whoever's team of 4 had the most total goals for LAFC across all competitions at the end of the season will win 1 free bacon-wrapped hot dog outside of the stadium. So we've kept the tally throughout the season, so we can trash talk each other accordingly. We've had quarterly reviews, 2 so far, and the one twist of this draft is that Denny Bwongo was off the market. This year there was another twist, which was that we went ahead on draft night without Travis because he wasn't there, so we made him auto draft, and he replaced 1 player later. And then on the first quarterly review, the whole thing blew up again. Travis, you offered to give us all remaining goals from Griezmann, who he had drafted hoping he would come, and Sanchez and Martinez in exchange for Giroud, hoping Giroud would come. Which meant that from that point forward, his team was Hollingshead, Giroud, and the 1 goal he'd already gotten from Martinez.
Hollingshead got one.
Yes.
Yeah, but he was still just like really the only guy scoring on your team.
Yeah, so let's just start there. Travis, you had Hollingshead. Your previous total, I believe, was 1.
What did we get? 2? We had 2.
So Hollingshead ended with 3 goals across all competitions. Ilie Sanchez, I just realized you offered his goals to us as well.
Oh, but we'll give it to him.
Let's give you the Sanchez goal. Then Martinez ended up being your high scorer, and you gave his goals away.
Just like the fan base, you gave up on him way too early.
It's true. So your total ended up being 5 plus the 2 from Giroud that you did get back. So you ended up with 7.
Yeah, 7's good for 4 players over the course of an entire season. That's a good number, right? And especially because 2 of them are strikers.
Yeah, it's a low scoring sport.
Oh, I didn't mention that it started with Aaron Long, and then you replaced Long with Griezmann. So you could have had Aaron Long's goals.
He did have a banger.
That's true.
And didn't he almost? He almost had that.
And he almost hit a
bicycle
kick, which would have. I think would have given me multiple goals. I think.
I was about to say, knowing us, I would say the missed bicycle kick would have counted as a goal.
I do that if it's cool, it counts.
If it's cool, it counts. That's the
I
little.
do think in the future when we do this, a bicycle kick should be worth 3 goals. If somebody gets a bicycle kick goal, it's worth 3 from now on.
And
it's
if it's cool, it counts should be formalized. We need to, as soon as anyone on your team
we should do that just to like
has a near goal,
fun.
You have to just note it.
Yeah, like we have to get together and like a consensus 2 out of 3
in
say
the
like, yes, that goal is offside, but damn, it was
cool.
pretty. So it's cool.
Right.
It's going in.
So I lost, Vince, obviously. Who won?
I guess between me and Vince. So Vince, you had Oliveira, Tillman, Tomas Angel, and Carlos Vela. So top heavy. Christian Oliveira ended up with 14 goals across all competitions.
Yeah,
that's great.
I guess that.
Huge.
This guy.
Tillman with 6. Angel with 2 before he left. Same as Giroud.
I'm a little upset about this. This feels like, and I feel like for once the rest of the fan base can sympathize with me. I picked Carlos Vela thinking that it was a sneaky good pick because all we were told was how much like they wanted him back, and everyone's like, he didn't clear out his locker, he's still good. And then even when they get him, they're like, guys, this guy's gonna be good. And Thornton, he fucked me, man.
Executive of the year, John Thornton.
Yeah, John Thornton. He pulled a fast one on me and on all of us. And really, I should have won. Like, come on, Vela's got to be good for 3-4 goals.
You know, I was actually thinking about that. There was that point where they were like, we haven't cleaned out his locker yet. And then there was a lot more back and forth and like kind of mystery. And I really feel like at some point they did clear his locker out. And then they signed him.
I almost feel like it was Ilya that at one point was like, we need to stop talking about this. And then just like slowly started.
One piece per game.
And then literally turned out the lights as he walked out of the.
The like Fresh Prince last scene.
The last thing he took was the captain's armband and like very gently rubbed it.
But at least they're renegotiating his contract right now. So
good. Yeah, they're still offering it. Yeah.
I mean, he's got so much untapped potential.
I mean, there's so many Clippers games to see.
He's also been training really hard. Oh no, wait, he's in New York.
Oh boy,
he's back on Carlos vacation time.
Well, you ended up with 22 goals plus 2 from Davi Martinez from Travis. That gives you 24.
It's more than 7.
That is more than 7. I had Mateusz Bogusz, who almost wins on his own. 20 goals across all competitions. Which, what did Bouanga end up with? 30 maybe?
In all competitions?
Yeah. No, 30 in MLS maybe.
No. He had 20. He had because 30 would have won him.
20 in MLS?
Yeah. I don't even think he had 20 in MLS, but he definitely had.
I think he had 20 in MLS because I remember looking. I think he had the same goal total as he did last year.
Okay.
In MLS.
Wow.
Anyway,
this is an LAFC podcast.
Not an MLS podcast.
20 for Bogusz. I had Edward Atuesta with 4, Ordaz with 1, and Dueñas with a big fat 0.
Ordaz with 1 is disappointing. I feel like we thought Ordaz might have more this season.
Yeah. And so that gives me 25 plus the 2 from Davi Martinez. I'm at 27.
How do we
like casual victory?
Congratulations. You get a bacon wrapped hot dog or my season tickets whenever I give them to you. Piece of shit. I'm buying you a hot dog.
Damn.
I'll take both.
Congratulations, Darren. You really deserved it.
Thanks.
I think Matty Bogusz.
Thank you so much for the tickets. It's been amazing.
This feels like a good point to ask: have we seen the end of Vince's top scorer, Kiki Oliveira, and Darren's top scorer, Mateusz Bogusz, and my top scorer, Olivier Giroud?
Not Giroud.
Which leaves us with nobody who scores goals.
Right? Definitely not Giroud.
Yeah, Giroud's still around. But Kike and Bogusz, it doesn't feel like we got to say goodbye the way that we wanted to, but I think we've been saying all season long, it doesn't feel like they're long for this team. Do we think that stands?
So they're going to go eventually. And I know people are like, well, duh. But what I mean is like, I still, as much as everyone's like they're gone, they're definitely not coming back. The window, like the January window, has gotten smaller and smaller for a lot of teams. Like these teams now are just not willing to make investments in January, and I think LAFC is in a strong position where they should say like, look, guys, and now they're talking to the players like, you guys will definitely go, but if offers don't come in for you at the level, you're gonna have to wait. And the summer is much better for you anyways, because it'll get you a full preseason with your club. We'll probably get a better number for you. Like, so just wait it out. And I know that's kind of weird because it's like almost like a lame duck, but it only behooves them to play well to continue to raise their value, right? So I think there is a very real chance either or both is with the team to start the season and into through the first few months of the season. And then I definitely see one, if not both, gone by the summer.
Does that, like, I don't know. After this season, that doesn't excite me as much as it would have last season. Like, I feel like the roster moves and the lack of continuity in the team and the lack of being able to plan around who we're going to have and build a team and a strategy around a certain roster really hurt us this year. And it felt like we had like, okay, we've got these 3 guys in case that guy comes, and we've got these 3 guys in case that guy comes, and this guy's coming in case these people leave, but they don't leave. So that it just like, it was this weird hodgepodge this year. And it's not like I'd prefer like, okay, we don't have these guys. This is our team. Let's have a season with this team and just make the right moves and play the right way for that roster.
But I think that in this sport, and just by nature of MLS not being aligned with the calendar of Europe, like as much as you want that, you can never say never. Like things are going to happen anyway. So yeah, Darren, I think you go into the season and you want some continuity. You plan. You tell the guys like, hey, let's try to do this. But regardless, if you're John Thornton, you always have to have like 3, 4, 5 backup plans because really, honestly, anything can happen. Just by nature of MLS. I mean, turnover is like it's mandated by the league. Like it really just is going to happen. I would like to see MLS someday get to that point where we see teams get, like the Man City run out or the Liverpool run out, where they get 3, 4 years of like the same guys together and see what they can do. But that's not the world we're in with.
I'm
MLS
just for
right now.
one season. Like one full season with one roster.
Well, you got 2022. That was pretty like that roster that they put together right before 2022 that won the cup, even though they added on obviously Giorgio and Gareth Bale. Like that was the continuity was there.
Yeah,
those guys were still. Who?
Christian Teo. He missed the PK for us.
Oh yeah, now I remember him. Yeah.
Don't forget
the guy with no shoulders. Sorry, the man had no shoulders. It was the weirdest thing. It's to see a professional athlete
for you to remember.
And like his head, his neck, and then it just like kept going down. And you were like, "Where are your shoulders?"
Christian Teo will haunt my dreams. All right, let's keep going.
We also made some more predictions about what was going to happen in the year. Vince and I made predictions about underperforming teams that we thought would do well. We can breeze through this because we've gone over it before. I picked the Rapids. Where did they finish?
They finished 7th.
Okay. Did they make it to the playoffs?
Yeah, they lost to the Galaxy. Remember, their best player got injured in the final game of the season.
Oh,
the Galaxy
right.
pretty much just
they kind of limped into the playoffs.
Yeah, they just ran them over.
Yeah. Vince, you picked the Timbers, which did turn things around, and then we all agreed that Galaxy was going to be better than last season.
You gave them to me,
and I haven't heard on that yet. Actually, I'm wondering, are they? So the jury's still out there, yeah?
I mean, it was a soft playoffs for them. They haven't really had to play a difficult team until Seattle.
I mean,
it's true.
If you do reach MLS Cup and you happen to lose your best player for, let's say, 7, 8, 9 months to get there, and then you don't win MLS Cup, we could say that's pretty bad. I'm just saying, it might not happen.
We have to gear ourselves up for them winning. I can't I can't have it in my brain. Yeah. It is a conversation that is I'm willing to have if they lose of what the season meant.
Oh yeah, I bet you're willing to have it. You're ready to go. That's the only reason why you might watch MLS Cup.
Especially because it was like they don't have to play Messi and Miami. They don't have to play the Crew. They don't have to play us. They've played easy teams every step of the way until the Red Bull, and I guess Forsberg is probably the best player left on the East Coast, but man, what an easy fucking path.
That's
to
what makes
play
it
the
so
Union
frustrating for
and the
us because it's the
Crew.
same easy path we would have had.
Yeah, but I mean, like the 2 years that we went to the finals, we played the 2 best teams in the East. Both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, sorry.
All right.
I'm just complaining
We
about us
also
losing.
were predicting whether or not Vela would return, and we couldn't figure that out. He finally did return. Now I feel like it's worth asking that question again for next season. But who knows? I don't think it's
he's
worth even
back.
talking about.
Yeah.
Bold season-wide prediction. Vince, your prediction was that Inter Miami would not win a single piece of hardware.
Was close.
That was
Wrong.
close.
I mean, record-breaking season, but then their coach quit. Come on.
Do we know why?
He said personal reasons, but
Yeah, but what's the real reason?
My guess is they gave him the ability to say that, and it was a firing, right?
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
My guess is the players didn't get along with him or something, and they wanted him to have an out. Why would he quit that? I mean, unless he's sick or something.
Yeah. Okay. I predicted Aaron Long would have a career year that turns in last season into a fluke of a season, which
Great
is easy to laugh
prediction.
off.
Actually,
That turned out to be true.
legitimately, the fact that Aaron Long wasn't really included in that like final list of defenders of the year is pretty criminal. Like everyone's like Steven Moreira won, and it's nice that like a fullback won or kind of a fullback in the formation that they play. But like, it's MLS, like it's such an East Coast bias. And obviously a Crew, they love, as we've talked about, they love the Crew. Everything the Crew does is the most beautiful, perfect soccer until they lose in the first round. But Aaron Long did have a great season. I will not hear any slander of Aaron Long. He played really well in a time when LAFC really needed him, because think of all the defenders that were either out injured or just had really shitty starts to the season.
Yep.
Do we think Aaron Long re-signs with us? Is he too expensive for what we want to pay him?
He's from here. I think that he does. I think we have the money. I think that's one of the reasons why you decline Marlon's option and say like, hey, we're not sure we're going to pay you kind of that wage that you initially had. So I think they're really trying to figure out a way to get everyone in. And I think he'll be back. I just can't see him leaving again.
Wow. What do you think Jeff Talk thinks about that?
I think he's stoked, especially if we give him $1 million or more. Jeff really loves Aaron Long, the millionaire.
He does love him. Travis, you predicted Kike Oliveira would finish the season with more goals than Bouanga.
Not true.
Not true, but honestly, he did. You made that prediction at a time when Oliveira had far less goals than
I've been high on Oliveira for a long time, and I'm willing to say I'm high on Martinez going into next season as well. I think that they have similar trajectories in my brain.
Can we do a very quick, we don't even have to discuss it, but a very quick, like, what is the status of the roster right now? Like, who, for those people who aren't reading every press release LAFC puts out?
Right now, you have a very thin midfield, if a midfield at all. You have basically Timmy Tillman holding it down by himself, with rumors of them talking with Lewis O'Brien's parent club to figure out a way to, I would think, extend the loan, especially with the figures that we heard of which they would have to buy him.
Yeah, it was like and we'd have to pay $8 million for him or some shit, right?
Yeah, that's what they wanted. It's never gonna happen. Lewis O'Brien, good player. He's not worth $8 million to anyone. And then
not even his fucking parents.
Yeah.
Fuck Lewis O'Brien.
Get out of here. In defense, you have like some, you have some issues as we've talked about. Aaron Long. What do you do with Murray? Marlon was a decent player, but did you see enough of him to want to commit big money to him? But then at the same time, you have Sergi Palencia, you have Chanot coming back. I do think that it's time to shift Omar Campos to a much bigger role. Like, he's learned the league. I think he's shown enough. As much as we love our friend Ryan Hollingshead, I think it's time for him maybe not to have so many minutes on his legs. And then Hugo Lloris will be back. So it's like, it's a little bit of a mixed bag. And then obviously, if you take into question the two guys that we talked about earlier, Kike and Bogusz, if they're gone, you're very worried. But I guess the biggest thing, not just the hole in midfield, but like, what are you doing? How are you filling that now? Like, we have Olivier Giroud, and as we talked about, he didn't score goals. And it's not because he's a bad player, although I do think he was not fully fit because of an injury or whatever else going on. But you're going to have to find a way to control games in a way that gets him involved. And that's not with the style of midfield that you had during this season. Like, Atuesta was the closest thing you had to a guy that kind of controls the game through tempo and through passing. You need someone, whether you like Atuesta or not, you need someone in this kind of similar mold, because this idea of just trying to get behind the defense is not like Olivier is not going to make it. He's not going to survive. He's not going to make a whole season with that. And that's just such a waste of, a valuable asset. So I'll be very interested to see how they kind of reimagine the midfield and what's the tactical setup, or what the kind of like default setting of this team is going into next season. Cause they did try to play possession. If you guys remember when they were on that winning streak and everyone was like, we love you guys so much. And they went into that Columbus game and they tried to play possession with Columbus, and Columbus Columbus is a good team. They were in a much better place. LAFC didn't have all their best players in that game, so I don't think it's a fair assessment. But from there, it's like Steve put the handbrake on. It was like, we're not doing that anymore, guys. And it was like, it's hard to argue that wasn't the right move, though, right? They reached the finals of Leagues Cup. They win a trophy in the Open Cup. They take first in the conference. Like, yes, they lose in the playoffs. I mean, it's a one game. It happens. There's variance. But I don't know. I just would have liked to seen them continue to see
when they
what
did
they
that and won. That was the best they looked all season.
Yeah,
right, and it was fun.
Easily.
And obviously, ultimately, how you finish the season, winning trophies is the most important thing. But for all of us to watch, like it was the most aesthetically pleasing it was to watch them, right? Like even when they didn't win games or maybe they tie games, like at least like they passed the ball around and did some things, as opposed to like this kind of like spongy defense, and then like, hey, let's lob the ball to Bouanga and see what he can do.
Yeah.
After the post game of the loss to Seattle, Darren and I were walking back to our cars, and Darren said something I thought was really smart, which was like that loss felt like it helped us understand that the way we felt about the season wasn't wrong, which is that the season just felt sort of all over the place, right? There wasn't a coherent. If we won MLS Cup, it would have felt like we got lucky. I don't think that team was the best team in the league. And that what you describing that stretch is like, right. We felt really good for a period of time. Like there was something really nice, but for a lot of this season, it just felt like we were kind of bouncing around a bit rudderless. And we had a lot of talent, and that would bring us wins, but it didn't feel like a cohesive season in the way that the 2022 season felt like. I don't think we played the most fun soccer that season, but we still were consistent. And then, and we certainly played more fun soccer that season than we did in 2023, where we only played on the counter. This season just didn't have a narrative really beyond Olivier Giroud being a failure for the club outside, and will Carlos Vela come back? It felt like a season. It felt like a rebuilding season now that we know how it ended, right?
Well, what's weird is it's like, as I said, like it's hard to argue with what he decided to do, because like in a lot of ways it did work, but what it was like relying too much on talent versus like optimizing the talent. Like what really frustrated me about that Seattle game was like, I did not see an LAFC team until like the end when they started maybe passing the ball, moving the ball around, like taking advantage of the fact that like you're the more talented team. Yeah. Like you can go out there and don't just rely on maybe Bouanga scoring, or, like go out there knowing that like, this is it. Like give it your all, like go out, maximize your talent. Like if you hit the post 5 times, then so be it. That's the way the game was going to go. But they didn't do that. Like they had one good goal scoring chance, really. Mm-hmm. And they scored. Like that was it. Hollingshead's goal was it. Otherwise, like it was just a bunch of middling chances. And
Hollingshead goal scoring chance was not a pretty goal score. Like it wasn't like that was a fluke as well of a goal.
Yeah, I was like, oh shit, I could score on this. I will.
Well, I mean, the movement was good. Like I would have liked to seen more sweeping. They went from one side to the other and then a cutback. Like talented teams, what they should do is just like go, like, let's go for volume. Let's try to get as many good chances as we can, instead of just saying like, let's just play to our best player's strength and then let him do it.
So would you say Dolo out?
I told you I'm saving that for the Patreon subscribers. We'll go deeper into it.
No, I think you really hit the nail on the head, Vince. I think that's it. Like they ended up, the style of play that they settled into is a style that you can play if you're a lesser team looking to steal a game. Like that's a good style. Not that it's not necessarily a good style for whatever they are too, but like That's how Seattle plays. Like, it's
A
how
li-
a team plays if you're like, well, we're not the better team, but we can still win if we do this. And they still kind of played that way, even though they're the better team, like
But
more than
what
half the time at least.
I mean, I'm sorry if I'm extending this longer than we want to go, but like what gets lost, and this is where like a lot of this, like the Steve out people do, like you lose me in this, is because like I get it when you say like, oh, he chokes in finals, oh, we just didn't win, and fine, yeah, like those are easy to see, but you're not giving me like real nuance and real context around it. Like you have to look at what Steve did and say like that team when he inherited him, they were very pretty to watch, but they were leaky. Like they just didn't have like that edge. And Steve really did make them like brutally efficient. And it was much better to watch in 2022. And then like it slowly got like a worse version of that. But ultimately, you have to say that like Steve took that team that didn't have that kind of killer edge, and he made them into honestly like a juggernaut defensively. Because LAFC, if you look at the numbers, gives up some of the fewest goals, like the fewest chances, the fewest shots, and he did it without. Even though we're saying like we want to see a more cohesive team, he did it not at the expense of goals because they were still near the top of goals, still near the top of chances, still near the top of shots. But I think again, what we're ultimately saying is like, what's the next level? And all those people that are like Steve out, just get someone else. Are you sure that someone else just has the next level? And are they going to lose the other things that LAFC were good at?
Yeah.
Like keeping clean sheets and keeping teams off the board. And that's the problem that Steve has to figure out. I have faith that he can do that. I think he's a young coach, but I think he's growing into it. And some of the roster build plays into that as well. But yeah, we want the best teams in the world. They just blitz the opponent. They put them up against it and they say, look, we're going to get as many big chances as we can. If they don't go in, they don't go in, but that's how we're going to kill you. And that kind of was what 2022 was. Like they really ground teams down by putting them under pressure and really giving it to them. This year, it seemed like it was more just you were relying, as Darren said, like on kind of like Hail Marys and like, you're like, well, if this doesn't happen, then, oh, well. So it was just like the window was much more narrow. And in a sport with so much variance, like you can't narrow your window. You got to just go for volume.
All right. That brings us to superlatives. Travis, who was the second most valuable player on the team?
I mean, we know Boanga's first. I think, I feel like we all want to say Bogusz
Carlos
here.
Vela. I agree.
I think Bogusz is the obvious one, so I'm going to go with a slightly.
I don't think he's obvious at all.
Interesting.
I wouldn't say Bogusz.
Oh.
Would you say Bogusz?
I think the one that you're going to go with, I think it to me is actually the obvious one.
Okay, well,
yeah.
let's hear what.
Are you? I'm going to say Lloris.
I was about to say Lloris as well.
Yeah, okay. It's Lloris then.
Okay, then it's not. Then that's not the one I thought.
Oh, what do you think?
I think it's Sergi Palencia.
Oh,
yeah.
The dude just.
Then who do you have for underappreciated talent of the year?
He might be that too, but he is a 1v1 incredible defender.
I love Palencia. I can't say a bad thing about him. I think he's amazing. But you think he's more valuable than Bogusz and more valuable than Lloris?
Lloris had, as much as we defended him, and like he maybe didn't need us to really defend him, he did have some rough patches.
At the beginning of the season, for sure.
Yeah.
But there was he was rock solid for, I want to say, 2/3 of the season.
I can point to like one game where Sergi was like
he was
bad. And even then it would be like, you're like, he had like 5 minutes where he just did two dumb things. And you're like, that was it. AJ, I don't know. He's like one of those guys that you're like, if we had 11 Sergi Palencias, we would win MLS Cup. I don't know. There's just something about him.
I love him. I remember we were talking about how underappreciated he was the year before.
Yeah. Right.
I'll go back to Bogusz since we talked about Lloris. I do think Bogusz is in a similar position where if we had 11 Bogushes, we would be in a really good place, right?
Sure.
Always in the right place. Incredibly smart player.
Totally
elevated this year in a way that I don't think any of us saw. Like, I was hot on him. I have a fucking Bogusz jersey. I did not see him scoring as many goals as he scored. He became invaluable to this team. And if we lose anyone this offseason, might be the hardest to replace because he just did everything. And like without him, especially in that early stretch where Bouanga couldn't score, we would have scored no goals at the beginning of this year. So I like Bogusz. I think if his time is up with the club or close to up, I will look back on his time very fondly and hold him in an esteem as a player for this team that I hold very few players that have come through this club.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. So we just all agree I'm right then?
Yeah, Lloris.
So yeah, the answer is Hugo Lloris.
I do think Lloris. Yeah,
I don't know. Those are three good arguments, or at least I think both of you made really great arguments. That I'm definitely not as hot on Lloris as I was going into it.
Yeah, he sucks. We want John McCarthy back. What's the next one?
And we can watch John McCarthy play this Saturday. Sorry.
On Apple TV.
Is it Saturday?
Yeah.
Yeah.
At 1 p.m.
Yeah,
which means it really probably kicks off at like 2 p.m.
Well, they'll have Kendrick Lamar playing live before the match.
They wish.
Surprise player of the year?
Surprise in what way? I would say,
there's a lot of guys you could actually
Olivier Giroud, surprise player of the year.
Yeah, agree. We can all agree on that. Easily. Who is more surprising in either direction?
Easily the most surprising. I think that's right.
You can't argue with that. Okay, underappreciated talent of the year.
I mean, we've already made a shot for Sergi, so I want to try to find someone else.
Omar Campos, I think, had a really solid season. You brought him up. I think he made some mistakes, but I do think in those flashes where he was good, he was really good.
I think you can also make the argument that he was underappreciated not only by fans but also by Steve Cherundolo.
Oh,
because
for sure.
He didn't have the kind of playing time that I think he deserved toward the end of the season.
Yeah, I think Steve doesn't suffer young players lightly. Like if you make a mistake, you kind of go in the doghouse for like a little bit. Which look, when you're a coach, like you're paid to win games, so you go with the guys you really can rely on. And Hollingshead is a guy he thinks he can really rely on, even if he maybe can't reach the same heights as Omar Campos at times. He knows that like maybe he's not going to make some of the stupid mistakes that Omar did, but he got that. To Travis's point, like he did get it out of his system at times. I thought he was going to kick on after that Open Cup, but Steve was kind of like, no, I still really feel like Hollingshead is the guy to close out the season. And I think mine would be in the same regard, and this is going to be controversial, is like Tim Tillman. I think that Tim Tillman is a much better player. I know everyone like harps on the giveaways, and like it's a thing, but like for me, that's the way that like Steve sets up the team. Like Tim is put in a position where like he's going to be in these tight spaces, and his job is to cover a lot of ground and then try to get the team forward in a structure that's like not much of a structure, if I'm being honest. Like it's just kind of like, hey guys, figure it out. And he got put in a lot of tight spots, and at times he wasn't as good. But to start the season, remember we were talking about Tim Tillman like MVP level. And I think that if you get Tim in a good situation, and as we talked about, that midfield is really thin, so they got to figure it out. But if they can kind of put the pieces around him, I think he is a plus MLS midfielder. And I think that we'll see him really thrive. Whereas like he got asked to do maybe some things that are like just a little bit above his pay grade.
That's fair. I think you could also say, that makes me realize you could also say Atuesta is maybe underappreciated just by the sheer level of hate that he got. I mean, like, not that he should have been appreciated so much, but he was appreciated so little that it's definitely not.
I think
correct.
Atuesta, a big problem is that we remembered Atuesta in a way that he did not show up as a player, right? So like, if he was just a random guy, if he was Lewis O'Brien, right, and he came in mid-season and made some mistakes, but also made some really good passes, we'd be like, yeah, that was pretty decent.
Yeah.
But like, he was a best 11 player for our team, right? Like we thought he was a superstar, and he was for us. So to see him come back and have the body language that he did, and just to like not be, he just never seemed fully invested is the wrong word. He just never seemed like he clicked with the team in the way that he had in the past from beginning to end.
Well,
Um,
to go back to what we were saying earlier, it was like you brought in Atuesta and you started to play a possession style, and then you stopped.
yeah.
And you asked Edouard to play a way like we don't talk about this enough. Like everyone's like tactics. Why can't you just tell the team to play differently? Well, if you have a group of players that don't play well that way, you just can't change it up on the fly. I think you really saw that in that Vancouver game. You bring in Atuesta at halftime and you say, hey, we're going to play 4-3-3. You're going to have two runners ahead of you and Lewis O'Brien and Tim Tillman, and they're going to do a lot of the work. All I need you to do is dictate the game with the ball at your feet. Get it out of your feet, get it to our attackers, and see what can happen. And they looked, I mean, that second half of that Vancouver game was why we were all excited going into the Seattle game, because we were like, wow, this team, maybe they're not the best team, as we said, but like if they play like that, they're going to be really hard to beat. And that's not, then what they do is they change the formation again. And Atuesta did try to control the game, but it didn't suit him. And yeah, to your point, like we knew him in a certain way, and then we didn't play him in that way. I think that's something that, anytime you watch a team, think a little bit more about the roles and what players do well. And are they in the right roles, or are they having to fill in a role because look, it's MLS, like the rosters are thin, guys might get injured. They're just trying to do the best they can. That's kind of what I was saying with Tillman. Like he wasn't necessarily playing in his best role, but he was doing the job to get them as far as they could go.
Is Atuesta gone? They did a part of our history post.
Yeah.
It would be pretty rare for them to do a part of our history and someone to come back. Like they normally do that when it's kind of been like they talk with Sporting and they say like, hey, this guy's loan is up. Like, so what does that mean? And normally they would say like, hold off. If they think a guy's going to be back, they would hold off.
Yeah, there are guys not technically on the roster right now that they haven't done a part of our history post.
Exactly.
Yeah. Who's the guy that they would always sign and do the hat tip video for that they did it multiple times?
What's his name? God damn it.
It's an LAFC 2 player, right?
Yeah, he's on the Tampa Bay Rowdies now. Oh, he's always a nice guy. Why I can't remember his name? That's so horrible. Now I feel worse.
It was just so funny that they would do that every time. They stopped doing it. They stopped. Yeah, Chrysostamo.
Chrysostamo?
Yeah, they stopped doing it for LAFC 2 now. Now they swapped the jerseys, so it doesn't. We know that it's not as big of a deal when the post happens. All right. Any other superlatives? We should keep it moving because we got the
fan moment of the year.
I know one. I mean, this is less of a club wide thing. LAX Andy doing a fan meetup for us without this isn't a club thing; it's a podcast thing. But like, the listeners of this show deciding they want to meet up and take a photo without even us being a part of it, and then we got to go and meet a bunch of those people. It just felt like a real realization of what a cool organic thing that we've built, that you all have helped us build with this thing and the show. And it, for me, was, as a fan of the club, it felt cool to be like, oh, we're a part of this club in an interesting way, in a way that I could have never imagined. So that was a cool moment for me. Ollie went missing at one point. That was fun.
Yeah. There have been a lot of moments this year, more than this year, where it was really cool to see people who watch and listen to our show, like hanging with each other and like getting along with each other in a way that is like, has been really fun to watch and be a part of.
And also, I've said this in other ways, other times. It's been long enough now. I missed all that stuff at the beginning of the season because my dad was passing away and did pass away. People were so kind to me on this show about it. And you guys were great about it. But like, people would just come up to me and share their stories and ask me how I'm doing and stuff like that. And like, that's not lost on me. And it meant a lot. And if I wasn't capable of expressing it when it was happening, I want to say thank you, especially to, was it Scott Coppersmith? Who was the one who gave me the pin and I made fun of him when he felt bad? Scott, I love you forever, my bud.
He wrote us a really great memory.
Okay, we'll get to it. It sticks in my fucking brain. This guy brought me a gift that was like a joke, and I did find it funny, and then I made fun of it on the post game because it was still like a month from my dad dying. I'm like, don't know how to process that stuff yet, and I could tell I had hurt his feelings when I did that. So I just like, I felt so dumb afterwards. So Scott, I still owe you a beer. You're the best. I still have the pin. So thank you for the pin that you gave me. I'm very stupid.
Clip that.
I'll clip some of it. I'll clip the parts where Travis just says I'm very stupid.
Yep.
Vince, do you have a fan moment of the year?
I mean, I think you touched on it. It was this year was rough. You know, obviously not having a job, having to deal with all that stuff. And LAFC is like, it's a very interesting. I'm in a weird spot, right? Like I love you guys. I do love LAFC as like an institution. I love the players, but like going there sometimes is like it's painful. But every time I would go, like people would be so happy to see me, and like they say like a joke from the podcast or something that what's the best is when they say something that we said and we totally forgot about it. And then they remind you, and you're like, oh my god. Also terrifying, by the way, guys, don't do that anymore to us. It's very scary because then I worry that like I offended somebody, but that's so fun to just like run into people. And it still is awesome when somebody's like, hey, can I have a picture with you? And you're like, I don't know why you would want one, but yeah, let's do it. So it's just very cool.
Cool. Okay. Moment or player we want to forget of the year. Can also be a player on another team too.
This is a weird one, but can I forget that Ilie was on the team this year? Because I just feel like it was such a not fun year for him. And I don't mean this in a bad way because I love him so much, but it just feels like if he doesn't come back, it's going to be like kind of sour taste in my mouth for how like it went down. Like, I know he's a little bit older. Maybe he didn't fit into the tactics of what they were playing, but like he's the best and I love him so much. But I almost want to forget that this year happened to him.
I think that's a really good one.
Yeah. He kind of did all the grunt work, but didn't really get enough out of it.
Yeah.
I think mine is a bit obvious, but I think losing the Leagues Cup to Columbus almost hurt more than the Seattle game.
Yep.
Because of the narrative around finals. We had been playing really well. Going to Columbus and losing a final, right? It just felt bad. And I feel like losing to Seattle at home sucks. I think we all know we were a better team than Seattle, and it, randomness happens or whatever. Especially with like a Chanot own goal, which I guess is another thing I'd like to forget.
I still don't know. I had to go home and watch it multiple times to understand how that happened.
Chanot is such a good player this season for us. It's such a bummer that I watched him, like, I don't know if it's praying, whatever he does, but between like after it
Prays
happened,
a lot.
yeah. Maybe he should have prayed a little bit more.
Hey, I was waiting for that. I was gonna say,
but like right after it happened, he fucking like dropped to his knees and whoever he's speaking to, it was just like, so I saw how much the team meant to him and how much that's not who he is. So it's just a bummer that he's going to hold that against himself. But yeah, that Columbus loss in Leagues Cup, I feel like we got dragged more by the league after that than we did after the Seattle loss.
Yeah.
And
Actually, yeah.
and it was just not a fun. I think it was probably my least favorite part of the season.
Yeah. Am I supposed to have one too? I don't have another one.
Yeah. We're all the hosts of the show.
We do care about your input.
I'll edit.
Are you gonna
and
come
thanks
back?
to our producer Darren Miller.
Are you gonna do some?
Maybe I should just be a producer. I don't know.
You're gonna replace some audio. You're just gonna go do it in post. That's cool.
What if we were like, yeah, great, that's great, yeah.
Yeah. Oh my god, that would be heartbreaking. Guys, you're supposed to say no.
Yeah, honestly, that would be amazing. Thank you.
No. Okay. I think. I mean, it's too obvious, but Giroud is still such a fucking mindfuck. Like,
yeah,
it would be nice for it to not be that way when we start the next season, and then it really, truly can be like this thing that can be just erased from our memory. We could pretend like it never happened.
And I think we also need to gear up
such a fluke
for the fact that some signings don't work out, even when they're superstars. And it's possible that it won't work out, and maybe something did happen, or he doesn't fit in the system that the way that Dolo wants to play. But I do think that obviously the Giroud thing's a failure, but like, I still am holding out hope that it seems impossible that he could go from being the third biggest goal scorer in Serie A to being so bad. It just doesn't compute, right? So
Right.
there has to be something that could be done.
And if he
next
leaves and then goes back to being as good as he was, like, then we have to grapple with what that means.
Again, I don't think he's leaving. I
think he's here for.
No, I mean at any point that he leaves.
But it's hard to integrate a player midseason, especially a player that played a full season, then went to an international tournament, then showed up. I think we had high hopes, and we should, because he's a World Cup winner. He's a class talent. But I don't think you can make full judgment until he gets a full preseason. If in March he still hasn't scored a goal, then we should start to have real serious talks about him, playing for this team.
I want to ask one final question before we go to break and then do our memories. Where do you think this season ranks among LAFC seasons? We won a cup, we lost in a final, and we crashed out before the Western Conference final. Where do you place it in our previous 7, or if you want to listen to the team, 10 years?
Guys, that first year,
was incredible. Where you didn't know the name of the team, or the colors.
When the colors were red and black.
Speaking of, go Red Bulls.
Yeah.
I guess 3.
Oh, then what's 2?
Last year.
Oh, really? You enjoyed last year? You think last year was expand on that? I'm just curious why you think last year.
You think this is a more successful season than last year?
It won a trophy. The most important trophy in all of soccer history.
I know that we say it's the most important trophy, but we also know that the 6 best teams were not in the tournament.
But Travis, am I going to remember that in 5 years?
No.
Interesting. Okay.
I don't know.
So,
look, I mean,
I guess there were more. There were.
I ranked this lower than 3rd.
Yeah, I mean, I can I be honest with you? Like 2019 was more fun.
I was gonna say
this year. Like
that,
even though
2019 was really fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe 4th.
I think 4th.
But I guess what I'm defending is last year being 2nd, right? Is that what you're getting at?
I would say last year I would rank above this year, but I would put it in 3rd. I would say 2019 where we were just unbeatable. And Carlos Vela couldn't stop scoring.
Oh yeah,
height of Diego Rossi. Like it just was the most fun outside of the championship year. And
is that a ranking we can all agree on?
Vibes, like.
But Vince, you think this season
what else is there?
Was better than last season?
But again, just like it's about trophies, right? And I know that seems so like.
Vince, would you actually rank your seasons based 100% on trophies?
No. So that's what I'm saying. It seems so like antithetic to everything I stand for. To be like, it's all about results, guys.
According to the club, we won a trophy last year. We won the Western Conference title, and because it's on a fucking banner.
That's true. They do give you a trophy,
and we get a trophy. And so if we had won the Western Conference final and US Open Cup easily, but a US Open Cup in this new iteration where by all accounts we were the best team playing in that US Open Cup. I'm not saying, look, we're far enough from the podcast. We all know I think it's the most important trophy in US soccer. But I just feel like last season, getting to the finals 2 years in a row, it felt like a more complete season, and that's why I would rank it above this season, especially because, like, I don't know, losing in Leagues Cup final, and although we lost a bunch last year in the middle of the fucking season.
Oh yeah, that always happens. There's like that's the true. LAFC like drought, right? There's always that little like trough.
Can we rank them both 4? Neither deserves 3.
You know, it'd be interesting.
That's true.
If you could ask somebody, if you could ask like Ilya or somebody, be like, where would you rank them? I would wonder if he would just pick trophies too, or if he would say like, no, this season, like I felt better, we played better. You know what I mean? Or I mean, Carlos has been there for all of them. I wonder what he would say.
Yeah, he's been there for all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's been there for all of them.
Carlos, would you rank the 10 minutes of this season?
He played 7 more minutes than all 3 of us combined.
Yeah, that's not that many.
And we were at 7 times more games than he was.
That's true. We
We
had
were
actually a
at
lot more
BMO.
chances to get subbed into the game than he did.
And my wife is a Clippers season ticket holder, and he's been to more Clippers games than. God, I hated the Intuit Dome. We'll talk about it on the Patreon.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Really?
Oh man, what a bummer.
Oh,
It really sucks. All right, when we come
Oh.
back, we're gonna give you
whoa.
our memory. We're gonna read some of your favorite memories from this year at LAFC. And we're back.
And we're back.
Ooh,
I don't know. I didn't have anything. You go.
that was in stereo.
I don't have an intro or anything. Let's just get into it.
Yeah, so we asked on all the platforms for people to send things that they're mad about and their favorite memories for the season. We're going to talk in this segment about people's favorite memories of the season because I feel like we had a bit of a downer in the recap part of it. So let's talk about the things that we liked.
Yes, favorite memories. Isaiah Lopez on Instagram. Two-Nip Sky crashing the Lobbing Scorchers stream in Seattle
That
for the
was
Open
fun.
Cup.
Actually, I
That
take
was
it back. That's my fan moment.
Yeah, that was such a fun moment of diaspora. Is that the right word? Where it was like, hey, that's our guy.
That's a guy who would be calling in to the show in the background of another guy on an opposing team's podcast who is calling in.
I know I'm using this word wrong, but it felt like Inception.
Yeah. And I still to this day don't know if Danny knew it was happening when it first started, but it was like the guy from Lobbing Scorchers, who we now know his name is Noah, but Peso Pluma, the Peso, gentrifying Peso Pluma, was talking to us, and he was like, "And look, there's a shirtless guy on the field."
Yeah,
And it was
we're
like,
we know who
wait,
that is.
that's Danny Two-Nip. That was a great moment, and a real fun. It's fun for the community to grow as it's grown.
We agreed the game that night. Okay, taxi driver Scorsese taxi driver Scorsese. I don't know. On Instagram says stealing first in the West on decision day.
Yeah.
That was
ranks
maybe
up there.
the I think that's the climax of the season.
And
literally it was.
and in hindsight, probably why we're not in the Western Conference Final. The fact that
if we had the series of matches the Galaxy had instead of the series of matches that we had, would we be in the finals?
Yeah, without a doubt.
Oh, wow.
I mean, Houston.
Did you see how quickly he answered that
I
question?
know. I'm not. He feels pretty good about it, so I don't. I mean,
Oh
there's
my
no way.
God.
There's no way to disprove
we had
it.
a harder path than them.
Yeah,
Like,
we did.
We did. And I mean, we had no idea how decision day was going to.
Listen, they beat Seattle and we didn't.
That's true. And they did it with their star player heroically playing on one leg.
Yes.
As if
hero.
he runs around a lot when he has two legs.
Yes.
I will say I've never seen a person tear their ACL and play as well as he didn't look hurt. He was part of the fucking whatever. We don't have to talk about it.
I mean, Eddie Segura played an entire game one of the seasons on a torn ACL. They had no idea, and I think they got a shutout in that game.
Oh, well then, fuck.
All right.
Yeah. Decision day was up there in terms of like fan moments for me of like what it felt like at the stadium where that's a good fan moment too. Everyone watching on their phones, sticking around, waiting, and you see the players realize it on the field. That was a really, really cool moment as a fan of a club in general.
When I went home to like rewatch parts of the game, the loss to Seattle, the same guy that was like the guy in the 32-52 that like they got on there being like, guys, Houston scored. I saw him then like dejected. And I was like, that's the guy. Oh, that's the guy.
Oh, no.
I don't know who you are. If you listen to the show, you're a celebrity to me, but I was like, that's that guy.
Another fan moment, the rise of Sombrero Kid. I think a great fan moment.
Yeah. I mean, he's building a whole, I think there's like a mini cult out there. In that
he better not start a
stadium.
podcast because we're.
I was going to say, will we be around long enough to see also
We're
the fall of Sombrero Kid? Because that will.
Oh, no.
Did you see Sombrero Kid's old tweets? Oh God.
We got to get him on the show.
Sombrero Kid's been in everyone's DMs.
Oh, no. All right. Laney O-Face says, Boanga hat trick. I forgot that happened. Okay, Diego Chavez, Rose Bowl victory.
That's it.
Major highlight.
And they ran out into the stands.
Yeah, that was awesome. And I think maybe like the moment where everyone realized that Kamara is the real deal.
Kamara could be the surprise player of the year for me, too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we underappreciated in the first segment. Most underappreciated in the first segment, Kai Kamara.
Well, then it's just on brand that we forgot him.
Yeah.
Yeah. While we were recording, somebody sent in a recording of them talking about something. Let's see what it is.
Oh, good.
From Dami.
Okay.
Hi, everyone. It's Dami from Section 213.
Hi, Dami.
Part of the reason why I love this club is its sense of community. I live in Expo Park, and y'all are my neighbors. And so my favorite moment of this season was actually a scary one. It was when Ollie took off during the flight and left the stadium, and we spent pretty much the first half wondering where our girl was. I'm sure the club and the Falconer got a ton of concerned messages, to the point where she was tracked down and they showed her on the Jumbotron and everyone cheered. It just really shows how much we all care about each other, even our tiniest member. So I'm so looking forward to next season. Thanks so much, you guys.
Great one, Dami. We love that.
Yeah.
It was a weird. It was like
Also, I think Elizabeth Banks was the Falconer.
I saw a good Patreon one from Todd. Favorite memory when Maria all of a sudden decided he wanted to be a striker and made 50-yard runs into the final third of the pitch. That's all. It's all like, it's just like a moment where you're like, oh, here comes Maria. Like, he's not going to score, but it's fun.
That was such a fun period of time right before he got injured. We had like a nickname for him.
Super Maria.
Yeah, Super Maria. Super Murray.
Super Maria.
It was just like, where did that come from? Suddenly he was the fastest person on the team for 3 games. It was really fun.
I would like to see more of that.
Yeah. We have, I will say, multiple people saying things like Rose Bowl. A lot of Rose Bowl ones. That one should be lifted up. Being the Galaxy of the Rose Bowl. Bogusz running into the sands of the Rose Bowl.
Winning Open Cup, people have. I mean, we haven't talked enough about that, right? Like, that was a genuine. This is from Anthony DeToro. My favorite memory was winning the Open Cup. We beat Carson twice, so that was nice. Bogusz and Maddie were outstanding most of the year. And then he says a negative thing. But like it
that we're saving for behind a paywall.
Winning the Open Cup was without a doubt a very like it felt like a relief more than anything else, right? Because the narrative was still we can't win in finals. And I think like it just was, we knew we should beat that SKC team, and we did. Yeah. And that's what felt good. Like there was just it's the same relief I would have felt if we beat Seattle. I don't think the Seattle game, I wouldn't have been like cheering wildly if we won. We should have won that game, and we didn't. But it's always fun to see players lift up a trophy. You don't get to see that very often.
No, I think that's how good we are. And it's frustrating to be constantly not seeing the results that reflect that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we finally got that. Someone sent in a photo that was cool. This is from Alyssa on Instagram. After being gifted field club tickets by a stranger, now friend, that we made at a game last year, we met Kamara the day he headed in a goal to make MLS history.
That's rad.
And they had brought a sign for Kamara and got a photo with him that they sent in to us.
Oh, I found a good one. This is from M. Soto. Best memory, Omar Campos banger in Open Cup. That was a great goal.
Oh, yeah.
That was a good goal. Because as frustrating as that game was, like, if you're going to win on a goal, that's a good one. And then
I have a favorite moment. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say that's a good one to win on. And then like Kai's goal was pretty sweet too, to like really finish it off.
Sorry. I was just going to say Buwanga peeing on the field in Seattle is such a fun
good one.
season.
That was art. It is now for sale in our merch store.
Yes.
Um,
Hang it in the Louvre.
there's a long one from Scott Coppersmith. Should I read it as penance for being mean to him one time?
I think.
Yes, that would be.
I think you
that would
have
be
to.
good.
All right, so this is an ebook from Scott Coppersmith. It's long. I haven't read it, but Darren says it's good, so I'm going to read it out loud. What's up, soccer nerds? Never mind. I don't want to read this piece of shit. I'm not a nerd.
Oh no, not again!
I'm a jock. This guy sucks. My favorite memory was an early season game. We were horrid, and Martinez was sent in late to try to save a game. Attendance reflected the crappy record of the season that far. And at the end of my row, with no one sitting between us, someone had brought a newbie. He didn't have any LAFC gear on, only jeans and a synthetic golf polo. Very specific. Kind of heavy-set dad, about to retire vibes. He clearly thought California didn't have winter, or perhaps was right off a plane from the Midwest. This was our first time seeing Martinez, and interest was high. Those that had given up at the game had a bit of a spark back when he came in. Almost immediately, David got the ball in the defensive half, and almost in front of my seats near the top of the penalty box. His first touch pushed past a defender, and suddenly he was sprinting downfield. The entire stadium rose to his feet as did my excitable self and the Midwest dad at the other end of the row. Martinez then knocked it past another defender and was now driving down the sidelines unchecked, like Ronaldinho versus Real Madrid. The stadium got loud, and wanting to be closer to the play now developing in the far end of the field, I skipped down the empty row towards the Midwest dad. Martinez met a defender in the box and also lost him, leaving him one-on-one with the keeper. The stadium was losing it. Thorington had delivered again, and it was a young Venezuelan Vela. Our season was saved, and we were witnessing history. Goal of the season, maybe, I wondered. What else would I witness this young wonder do? How fortunate are we to see such talent, and how unfortunate for Carson. Special players make special moments, and I was witnessing his professional debut. The Snow Globe game doesn't count. All these thoughts flew through my brain as we stood there with the keeper. But like so many great sports moments, it was so quickly when he shot wide and hit the side netting. That moment was my favorite of the season, and the reason is this. As he missed, I realized that I had one arm around a complete stranger and that my other hand was clenched on his sleeve closest to me. Midwest Dad and I had been jumping up and down, likely at my urging, and death grip on his sleeve. That's such a great story, Coppersmith.
That's
great.
pretty classic.
I do remember that moment very specifically. It just looked like, oh, fuck, this kid has it.
Yeah. I think I would say that a lot of the people who are hot on Martinez, that a lot of that rests on that moment.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that was a very formative moment. Like people formed their opinions of him, and it's hard to let go of what you saw in that moment when you're thinking of what you think of him in general.
So those are most of our positive memories of the season. I think we touched on a lot. We're going to cut right now to the Patreon and give you some of the things that make people the most mad. So if your feed cuts out right now, you're not a Patreon member, or you haven't been listening on the Patreon feed. And if you want to hear the Patreon episode, go to patreon.com/happyfootsadfoot right now and listen to it. But if
you still have time, we'll still be live by the time you get back. So hurry.
We'll even wait for a few minutes.
Yeah, we're going to stop talking for like a good 4 minutes so you can get your credit card out. Give us $5 and then listen to the end of this with all the juicy stuff, and maybe.
And you still also, if you're not a Patreon member yet, you can go back and listen to the fan confessions from last time.
Those were juicy. And don't forget,
cancel your membership. We don't care.
Yeah, if just listen, hear me say something drunk about Ricky Puig, I'm going to regret, and then cancel your membership. Okay, it's over.